There's this feeling I've had since I was a kid that I've never been able to fully shake. It's not fear exactly. It's more like you're in the middle of something completely normal, eating breakfast or walking somewhere, and then something just shifts. Like a lens clicking into focus. And for a second, you actually feel the weight of the fact that you exist. That you are a thing. That there is a world around you. That any of this is happening at all. And then it passes, and you go back to whatever you were doing. I used to think everyone felt that. Then I started mentioning it to people and getting blank stares. And I realized maybe not. Maybe most people move through their entire lives without that lens ever clicking in. Without ever feeling, even once, the full absurdity of the situation they're in. Because the situation is absurd. I mean that completely seriously. At some point, I accepted that I am never going to get an explanation for why I exist. Not in a depressing way. Just factually. There is no document. No one's going to pull me aside and say, okay, here's why reality exists, here's why you're in it, here's what the point is. That conversation is not going to happen. The question has been sitting on the table for as long as humans have been able to form questions. And the honest answer, the answer that nobody really wants to say out loud, is that we have absolutely no idea. Not a partial idea. Not a working theory. Nothing. And that should be a bigger deal than it is. I think about how much energy goes into figuring out how things work. Physics, chemistry, biology, incredible, genuinely staggering amounts of human intelligence pointed at the machinery of reality. And we've gotten far. Genuinely far. We can predict how particles behave. We can map the early universe. We can describe the structure of a cell down to molecular detail. But why any of it exists, why there is something rather than nothing, that question is exactly as open as it was when someone first asked it. We got better at describing the furniture. We made no progress on the room. I find that almost funny sometimes. In a way that's hard to explain. The thing I keep coming back to is how quickly we normalized all of this. We are conscious. That alone, just that, before anything else, is something that should bring everything to a halt. Not metaphorically conscious. Actually conscious. There is something it is like to be here. There is an inside. There are thoughts happening. There is a subjective experience running right now, and it is mine, and I have no idea how that's possible. Consciousness, the fact that experience exists at all, not just behavior, not just computation, but actual felt experience, is one of the only things in science that has no agreed-upon explanation, no working model, no consensus on even how to approach it. The hard problem of consciousness is what philosophers call it, not hard like difficult, hard like there's a fundamental gap between any physical description of the brain and the actual fact of experience. You can map every neuron, and you still haven't explained why there's something it feels like to be a person. We are the thing that doesn't know what it is. And we eat breakfast. We check our phones. We have opinions about things. Sometimes I try to actually hold the scale of this. The universe is roughly 13.8 billion years old. The piece of it we can observe spans distances so large that the number of kilometers becomes meaningless. The brain wasn't built to feel numbers that big. And inside all of that space and all of that time, on one planet, around one ordinary star, in one unremarkable region of one galaxy among hundreds of billions, something happened. Chemistry got complicated enough that it started maintaining itself. Then it got complicated enough that it started copying itself. Then it kept going, billions of years of iteration, most of it invisible, most of it dead ends, until eventually something was sitting somewhere looking up and wondering what it was looking at. That's the situation. That's actually what happened. And I don't know what to do with that. I mean, I genuinely don't know. It's not a question I can answer, and it's not a feeling I can resolve. Every time I really look at it, I feel like I'm standing at the edge of something with no bottom and no explanation, and no sign telling me what it is. That feeling has never gone away. I've just gotten better at ignoring it. Like everyone else. What gets me isn't even the big stuff. It's the specific smallness of being a person inside it. There are potentially more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on every beach on Earth. That's a real estimate, not a metaphor. And somewhere in all of that, we happened. One specific chain of events, out of every possible chain of events that could have unfolded from the beginning of everything, produced this. Produced the specific configuration of matter that reads, that thinks, that has a name, that woke up this morning slightly annoyed about something small. The odds against any specific conscious being existing are so large they stop being a number you can think about. And yet here, actually here, not as a philosophical abstraction, as a real, live, ongoing fact. I don't have a framework for that. I don't think anyone does. I think we just collectively agreed to not look at it directly, the way you don't look directly at the sun. Because if you actually held it, if you let yourself actually feel the weight of it, it would be very hard to care about most of what we spend our time caring about. And then there's the part that took me a long time to even articulate. Reality doesn't owe us consistency. The laws of physics, as best we understand them, seem stable. They've been stable for as long as we've been able to check. But that's not the same as them being guaranteed. There are real theoretical models in physics, not fringe stuff, actual peer-reviewed science, describing the possibility that the vacuum of space, the baseline state of the universe, the empty that underlies everything, might be in a metastable state. Like a ball resting in a dip on a hill instead of at the bottom. It looks stable. It is stable until it isn't. And if it tipped, the change would propagate outward at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics as it goes. No warning. No time to process it. Just different rules, everywhere instantly. It probably won't happen. The universe has been around 13.8 billion years without it happening. But probably is not certainly, and I sit with that sometimes. The idea that the ground rules of existence are not locked in. That we are living inside something that is under no obligation to stay coherent. And I'm not saying this to be unsettling. I'm saying it because it's just true. Because reality is under no obligation to match our expectations of it, and it never has been, and we walk around as if it signed some kind of contract. It didn't. I think about what it means that anyone, can even register how strange this is. That's what gets me the most, actually. Not the scale, not the instability, but the fact that out of all the possible outcomes of a universe, one of them produced a thing that could look back and feel confused about itself. That the universe, through some completely accidental chain of events, made something capable of noticing that it exists and finding that weird. There might be other things like that out there. There might not be. I think about the version where we're not alone, and I can't quite grasp it. I think about the version where we are alone, the only thing in all of that space that ever managed to ask why, and I can't grasp that either. Both versions feel like too much. Both feel like something that should stop a person mid-step, just for a moment, just to acknowledge the weight of it. Most days I don't stop. Most days I'm doing what everyone does, managing the immediate, the practical, the close range. And that's fine. That's functional. That's how a life gets lived. But underneath it, always, there's this thing. This feeling that I walked into a situation nobody explained to me. That I'm in a realm where the rules are unknown, the origin is unknown, the purpose is unknown, and everybody around me has gotten very good at acting like that's not the case. I haven't gotten that good. I'm still 9 years old inside this. Still feeling the ground shift under me. Still holding that first question that never came with an answer. Why does anything exist? Still don't know.